Hello everyone, Teacher Megan here with VIPKID. If you're watching this video, you have booked your very first VIPKID class. Yay! It's an exciting time, and you know, if you woke up to having your first class, you're probably freaking out. Are you freaking out? It's okay. Don't freak out. You know, it is a little nerve-wracking, but don't freak out. And I'm here to hopefully help calm those nerves and help give you some tips and tricks to help you get prepared for that very first VIPKID class. This is exciting. Yay! So, I just have like a couple things to share with you that will help you jumpstart your VIPKID journey on the right foot and get you prepared. When I first started teaching with VIPKID, I didn't have any kind of support, and I went into it blind. I didn't know about all these Facebook groups and all these YouTube videos that would have been super helpful when I was starting out. So I'm trying to jump in there and help some of not only my recruits, but anybody else that happens to stumble across this video that has just gotten their first booking, which is so exciting. So let me tell you something that I had happen to me. So I was teaching my very first class, and I kind of just like blanked for a second. Now, it literally only lasted a second, but in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't said anything in like 5 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Like it felt like so long. And so, if that happens to you, and it may not happen in your first class, but there's going to come a time when you're teaching and you're just going to draw a blank. You do this so much, it's just, you know, you get that kind of like in the zone sometimes, or you like get to thinking about something else. You're like, oh, what? I'm teaching. So it does happen, but sometimes nerves can definitely kind of stem that and make that happen. So something that I always revert back to when that happens is to ask the student, what do you see? And that gives me a little bit of time to kind of look at those tips at the bottom of each slide and be like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to do this, this, and this on this slide. And that buys you a little bit of time, and that also gets the kid thinking. So you're not wasting time if they are, you know, trying to figure out what they see and how to tell you. And sometimes you can be like, I see an apple. What do you see? And they'll say, I see an apple. So that just kind of buys you some time while you kind of regroup and get your thought process back together. And then something else that I do when I have just like a zone out moment, I'll try to get the student to circle something. So on your slide, there's going to always be a lot of stuff. It might be numbers, it might be a picture, it might be words. So I always try to get them to circle something in that moment that I'm just like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing right now? So I'll be like, circle the apple. Circle the apple. Circle. And that buys you again some time to kind of glance at the tips at the bottom of the slide and figure out what you're supposed to be doing. So I have found that to be super helpful, just in those moments when you just kind of freeze up. And, you know, when we try something new, we do have those moments when we just kind of freeze up, and it's okay. But it's always good to have a backup plan in that moment. So you might know that you froze up, but the student and the parents of the student won't know because their kid is still interacting and still doing things that are good to help them learn English. So, this whole thing is about nerves. And so let's talk about nerves and talk about how they can be a good thing. I am a mass communications major, and something that we always talked about in all of my classes were a little bit of nerves is good. And so you can sometimes channel that and turn that into a lot of positive energy. And one of the things that helped me out when I first started teaching was to put myself in the shoes of the student and the student's parents. I know English really good. It's the only language I know. So I'm confident in teaching them English. And so I put myself in their shoes. They've spoke Chinese their entire lives. And some of them have had some English background, but most students have not. So they're sitting at a computer, some of them for the first time, or maybe some of them have been doing it for a while. But, they're sitting at a computer learning a language that they don't know, and they haven't been speaking their entire lives. So they are probably going to be nervous, if not more nervous than you are. And also think about it from the parent's perspective. For those of you who are watching that may have kids, and they went to school for the first time, like, you were probably super nervous for them. And so think about the parent. They're going to be super nervous for their student, their child that's learning a new language. Even could be a language that their parents don't know. So they kind of might feel helpless. I've had that happen where a lot of my parents of my students don't know English at all. And so they get in there and they're like, I can't help my kid because I don't know what I'm doing. So they're probably way more nervous than you are. And so just kind of flip the table and think of it from that perspective. And there are a couple of things that you can do to not only ease your nerves, but ease the nerves of your student and the student's parents. So the first thing that I do when I get in a classroom, right before I hit that start class button, I'm already set and I'm already smiling. Ding! So I'm sitting there smiling before their camera even pops on, because I don't want the camera to turn on and me be like, you want to be immediately, as soon as they turn that camera on, you want to be expressive and smile, because smiling is something that we can relate to without any language. They immediately know once you're smiling at them that you're kind and that you're happy to see them. So instantly smile and keep that smile the whole time. When I first started teaching, I literally would get done with class and I would have to massage my cheeks because they hurt from smiling so much. I kind of felt like that Barbie doll at the end of Toy Story when she's like, is everybody gone? Is everybody gone? Oh, my cheeks are killing me. I felt like that at the end of every class, but I noticed over time that I was getting less nervous, and a couple minutes into the class, my nerves were gone. So smiling can not only help your student feel at ease, but it also immediately makes you feel better. So another thing is to be kind. And one way that we do that with VIPKID is to be extra expressive and give a lot of praise and encouragement and to bring excitement to the classroom. If you're teaching a slide and you're like, circle the apple. Go ahead, circle the apple. That's not going to make your student feel good. So be expressive, be excited, be like, circle the apple. Circle the apple. And then when they finally circle that apple, you can say it probably 5 or 6 times. Now, not every lesson is like that, but you could end up saying something a couple times. Don't be like, circle the apple. You want to be patient with them, but be excited. And as soon as they do the thing that you've asked them to do, clap for them. Yes, good job. Woohoo! Encourage them. Let them know that they are doing the right thing and that they've done it well. Because if they do it and they circle that apple and you're like, and move on, they're going to be like, did I do it? Did I do it right? So we want to be encouraging, and it's okay to laugh and have fun and just bring positive energy. And I can tell you, as soon as you start being like this, your nerves just shoot right out the window and you end up having so much fun and a good time with these kids. So those are just a couple of other things to remember when you're teaching your first class. And now I want to jump into preparation. a lot of people sit there and they're like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to prepare for this class? And they end up spending hours preparing for their first class. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's really not necessary, because one of the awesome things about VIPKID is that they prepared the lesson and the lesson content and the lesson objectives for you. So you don't have to sit there and be like, okay, I have to do this and this and this and this and grab this and this and this. Don't do that. Don't overdo it. You know, we want you to be prepared, but I don't want you to stress out about preparing for class. So I'm going to share with you what I did at first. When I got my first booking, and pretty much for the first couple of months I did this, but I had a notebook and I would write their names at the top of the page, and then if I had more than one student, I would divide it off and have their names, and I would put the class title, and I would put the lesson objectives and the sentence patterns in each of their boxes. So that's one way to just kind of help prepare yourself mentally for your class. I have found, like, if you write stuff down, you remember it better. At least that's how I operate. So I would first go through, before looking at the slides, I would write down the student's name, maybe their age, because you can find all of that on their information page, and I'll bring that up right now. Yeah, so you can find all that stuff on the information page about your student, and I just write those things down on the piece of paper, and then I sat down and I would go through the slides. And I would do this just sitting in my living room. I wouldn't do it on my computer. You can access it all on your computer, but you can also access it on your iPhone through the app. And if you have a tablet, you can access it through that too. So I would sit on the couch and maybe have like one of my shows going on in the background, and I would just look at the slide and kind of, decide, is there anything creative I can do with this slide, or do I just do what it says at the bottom? And I'd be like, okay, I'll just do what it says at the bottom. Not a big deal. So I really spent at first maybe like 5 to 10 minutes preparing for each class, and I would do it the night before. I wouldn't, because you can access your classrooms 24 hours before they happen, but you can access the materials pretty much after they're booked. And but I didn't want to stress myself out, going through all those way ahead of time. So about 24 hours before the class, somewhere in that window or the night before, I would just take a look at those things and jot down just a couple of notes to remember while I was teaching. And again, those are really helpful if you're teaching and you do one of those things where you draw a blank and you're like, what am I doing? You have those notes there next to you. And again, you can access all of that in your teacher's portal under your bookings page. There'll be, your class will show up, and then you'll have like materials, enter classroom, whatever, and it's under materials. So you can click on there and it'll bring up the slides. And so then I just go through all those slides just real quickly, and then move on. And again, like I said earlier, I think I said it earlier. I don't know. But if I didn't, you don't have to prepare for these classes forever. Pretty much all of VIPKID lessons follow like a certain structure, and once you've taught for so long, you kind of get used to how those work, and you don't have to prepare as much. I literally don't prepare hardly at all anymore, unless it's a lesson that I haven't taught before. Like if I've been certified in a new level or some sort of new classroom format, I'll prepare for it then. But for the most part, I've taught almost every lesson at least one time, and they're kind of repetitive, so they kind of follow a certain pattern, so you get used to teaching those. So you don't have to do this forever, but at first it is necessary and highly recommended that you prepare and get ready for your classes. So something else to look at while you're preparing for your classes, at the end of each class, we as the teacher are required to leave feedback, which I'll talk about in a minute, and comments for the next teacher. This will be really helpful for you when preparing for your first class. For teachers like me that have been teaching for 2 years, I have a lot of regulars. So, I remember, last class we did this, we worked on this, or we need to work on this. So I remember those things. But when you're first starting out, pretty much definitely all of your students are going to be new. And so you don't know anything about them. But you can go in those teacher comments and you can read comment after comment after comment about that student. And you can see the areas that they need work on. You can see the areas that they do well, and that will help you prepare. And you can kind of jot some of those down. I would go through and look, be like, oh, well, this student needs to work on using pronouns correctly, or needs help, learning these certain letters, or how to pronounce these vocabulary words. And I would just write that down in their little space in my notebook, so I could pay extra attention to those during the class. Like if those pop up and that student is still struggling, we'll take just a couple of seconds to review those things. So that shows the parent that you are serious, and that you are diligent, and that you are looking into the student's past progress so that you can help them progress in their English learning. So it speaks a lot about you and your teaching style. So, and parents, pay attention. So that's just really helpful for not only you, but also helpful for the student and the student's parents. So I'll wrap this up with talking about feedback. So like I said before, at the end of each class, we're required to leave feedback. This first box is for the parent, and it'll say to the parent. And you are required to fill this out. You have up to 24 hours to fill it out. You have 12 hours to fill it out and submit it before they take half of your pay. And then you have an additional 12 hours to submit it before you don't get paid at all for that class. So what I would always do at first was jot down feedback during the class on my notebook. My notebook was always sitting right next to me, and I don't even have to look at it. It looked terrible, but nobody else sees that but me. So I would just be over here jotting down, a word or two or a letter that they need to work on, just so that I could go back and do my feedback later. Now, VIPKID will recommend that you teach a class, and if you have another class right after it, you teach a class for 25 minutes, you have 5 minutes, do your feedback, and then go to your next class. They recommend that you do that, but you don't have to. Like I said, you have that 12-hour window. I'm going to say 12, because if you miss that 12-hour window, then you're only getting paid half, and we don't want that. So what I would always do after I would get done teaching my class or classes, I would take a break, maybe have a snack, because you've been teaching for a while and you're probably hungry. Like me, all my classes are in the morning, so by the time 9 a.m. rolls around and 10 a.m. I'm starving. So I take a little bit of a breather, and then I come back and I look at my notes in my notebook, and I start making that feedback to leave for the parents. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be, super honest and say, oh, they need to work on this, this, and this. But you need to. And don't be afraid of that. Some of the best advice that I got from another VIPKID teacher, I went to a seminar, and they talked about feedback. And she said there's certain things that you want to always do with your feedback. You first want to praise the student, and you want to let the parent know what they did well. And especially if it's a new student, I always start off with, welcome to my VIPKID classroom. I hope to see so-and-so again in my classroom soon. And then I'll say, Bobo did a wonderful job watching, listening, and speaking today in class. He also did a good job with vocabulary words. You know, whatever that is, I at least want to compliment them on 3 things that they did well. Do that every time. And then I address the things that they need to work on. And I'll say, Bobo needs to work on this word, this word, this word, this word, or Bobo should practice his sentence patterns. You always want to leave that constructive criticism. Because if you don't, I mean, they know that their students aren't doing everything perfectly, or their kids aren't doing everything perfectly. So they want to know what they should work on. You don't have to worry about them getting mad about it. I've never had a parent get mad about feedback. They always are very kind. And just recently they made it to where they can send you a message and then you can respond back to them in feedback. And so that's a cool feature. But I've never had anybody, you know, be mad that I said so-and-so needs to work on this. They actually have thanked me. So it's really important. And then something else to do in your feedback. I know that I feel like I'm giving you a lot of information, but this is good stuff. So VIPKID has something called Apple rating for their teachers. And I am a 5 Apple rated teacher, which is awesome. But anyway, at the end of every class, parents can give you a rating. Yes, they can. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. But these are good. You need them because once you get ratings, you can get more bookings because it kind of puts you up on their VIPKID platform, and you get noticed by parents. And they can put these little tags with your rating being like, oh, expressive, patient, gives proper correction. There's all these different tags that they can put with your profile that kind of pushes you up the VIPKID ladder to be seen. So at the end of your feedback, especially starting out, I don't do it anymore, but especially starting out, just be like, if you enjoyed your lesson with me today, give me a 5 Apple rating. Or don't forget to give me a 5 Apple rating. It's completely appropriate to ask for it. I know a lot of VIPKID teachers that do it and did it. I did it. So do that. It's completely okay. All right. I know I've given you a lot of information today, but I hope that it just kind of helps you get prepared for your first VIPKID class. It's really exciting, and I'm really excited for you. If you're one of my recruits, please reach out to me. If you've gotten your first booking, if you have any questions while you're preparing for your class, please contact me. You have all my information. If you don't have a mentor and you're about to teach your first class, I still want to help you. I went into this completely blind. I didn't have a mentor to ask questions or talk to. So I still want to help you. If you don't have a mentor, I would still love to help you through this process because I want you guys to enjoy the best job that I've ever had. And it's an amazing experience. So my information will be down below for you to contact me. I also have a blog that is brand new, so it's still being worked on, but you can follow me there too and have a lot of helpful information. So yeah, congratulations, you're about to teach your first class. Welcome to VIPKID. And again, subscribe to my YouTube channel. This is also new, so I don't really have many followers, so I'd love it if you're watching this video just to go on ahead and subscribe to my channel. I would love it. All right, goodbye.